Welcome back to another week of Crunch Time. As always, I'm your host, Noah Elkin, here with...
Awesome, man. As usual, we have a variety of topics from this amazing world of sports, and Noah hit me with that first one.
All right, Austin. Well, as you know, we weren't here last week due to Thanksgiving break and us going home and all. And, with the last podcast, we left off talking about mainly the Warriors and the Blazers, but really just the NBA as a whole. And my God, so much has changed, Austin. The Warriors and the Blazers, for example, have kind of shat the bed a little bit the past few weeks. The Blazers have have lost, I believe, like 5 out of their last 7 or so. The Warriors went on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah.
It seems like the Warriors have maybe started to correct the problem.
2-game winning streak, baby. But,
yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with just dealing with the injuries and the whole Draymond KD thing. But I think it's mostly just the injuries. They're very short-handed. They've had to call up a bunch of people from the G League, like Davion Lee, one of our two-way players, actually really doing well in that role. So I think we have a contributor for the rest of the season just based on his performance thus far. But also I just think that they were just trying to figure out how to mesh together as a group just because they're down like the personnel they're usually used to playing with. And so you saw like a little bit of awkwardness in their offense. Like their defense was just not communicating as well. Their switches were a little off time. But I think now that they've played some games together, I think they're going to turn it around. I don't know when Steph's going to come back, but I hope so soon. And I think tonight, 3-game winning streak.
All right, before we can talk about the rest of the NBA in a second, but I know you have some strong opinions about all that KD and Draymond Green drama. If you hadn't heard, Draymond Green and KD got into a little bit of a shouting match on the sideline after Draymond Green essentially lost the ball game for the Warriors against the Clippers, I believe.
Lost the ball and lost the game.
Yeah, and the media just blew this thing up. But, Austin, I want to give you the floor and kind of get your side of the story, or what you think is going on.
I totally agree. The media just made such a big deal out of it when it really isn't a big deal. Like, teammates argue all the time, like Shaq and Kobe. That was a beef that the media wanted to just, poke at. But the thing is, they won 3 championships together, and that's just because they both care about winning. And I think Draymond and KD both care about winning. So I just think it was just more of a heat of the moment. I understand it went through, like, after the locker room, just because, they could have won in regulation. They lost in overtime. So I think the media just made a whole big deal out of it when it really wasn't. Like, I think KD and Draymond they've made amends already. I think they're ready to just kill the rest of the season. So I don't really see this being a persistent issue. It was just a moment of 2 guys really wanted to win. One guy messed up. The other guy got mad about it. And, that's just how teammates do. They hold each other accountable for their actions. And I just think at the end of the day, it just made them better teammates rather than just, build like this giant disconnect between the team as a whole.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think it's really good that this is happening. Good for the Warriors that this is happening early in the season, so they'll have plenty of time to work this all out. It sounds like they're kind of already moving past it as we speak. I don't know. What do you think about like the free agency comments that were made, and do you think those will, pertain to the truth in the future?
I feel like Klay Thompson for sure is going to stay with the Warriors, but I think KD, it's 50-50. He stays, 50-50 he leaves. And I don't know, I feel like Draymond's got to earn that max contract a little bit. Just like, he's very valuable, but the thing is, like, if you're going to be paid like close to $200 million over 5 years, you best be averaging like 20 points a game at the least. And I understand he does a lot of the little things that like make a player great, but I just think right now he doesn't justify a supermax contract in my opinion. But the NBA tends to overpay players, so just because of the inflation with the cap. But I think if KD doesn't stay at the Warriors, I feel like he's gonna go to the Knicks.
Think he'll go to the Lakers?
I don't think he'll go with the Lakers just because I don't think he wants to play with LeBron. It's nothing that he hates LeBron or doesn't want to have that play with LeBron. I just think it's more for his legacy. Like, you can't just leave your super team and then go play with the best basketball player in the world when you're already regarded as the second best basketball player in the world. So I think it's more so for his legacy.
Interesting. That's actually an interesting perspective because I feel like his legacy is already somewhat tarnished in a lot of ways. You wonder if he'll embrace that like bad guy role.
I mean, I think he will. I feel like he's kind of just realized to where whatever he does is going to be heavily scrutinized by the media, and I think he's accepted that and is just going to do whatever is best for his legacy and his game. Whether that's going to the Knicks, whether it's staying or playing with LeBron, I think KD's just going to do what he feels is best for himself.
All right. All right, so I want to talk about the Clippers a little bit because the Clippers missed the playoffs last year, and currently they're sitting in the top spot in the West. They've, in the last week, beat the former 1 and 2 seeds in the Warriors and the Blazers. It's both in close games, but like, wow, I did not expect the Clippers to be this good so soon.
Yeah, I just think with when you look at the Clippers, there's no player that's gonna make you go like wow. But the thing is though, they just have a group of solid players, and like there's no real weakness. Tobias Harris, I think, is one of the most underrated players, maybe the most underrated player in the league.
I think Lou Williams is among that or in that category as well.
Yeah, but I think with the Clippers, Doc Rivers really just did a good coaching job. I think maybe trading his son away really helped.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go back and you look at just the way that they dealt all their superstars on that team, and I thought, I knew they were getting pieces back and stuff, but I figured it would take them a year or two to rebuild, but they have just gone through that process so quickly with not necessarily, like, I'm going to say, like, worse players. Like, they have a lot of depth and stuff, but they don't have DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin,
Yeah, but the thing is, though, if you look at the Clippers, you see their roster, and they have a lot of solid defensive players, like Avery Bradley, Patrick Beverly, regarded as two of, like, the top perimeter defenders in the league. You have Tobias Harris, who can guard pretty much almost every position on the floor. So I think their defense deserves the most of their credit. I mean, sometimes their offense struggles, but when they're on, and that's when it's Lou Williams time for that. But I think just their offense has looked pretty good. Their defense, I think, is going to be solid throughout the season. I would just say their offense might teeter off. They're just really hot right now. But, like most teams on a winning streak, they'll come back down to earth.
Yeah. All right. So how about the other LA team, the Lakers? LeBron James this week became the 5th all-time highest scorer in the NBA, which is pretty impressive. I mean, I feel like we all kind of knew it was coming with the fact that he entered the league fresh out of high school and has been balling ever since. He's played an insane amount of playoff games in that time.
He's already the all-time leading playoff scorer.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that he's still playing, and he did that last year, just insane. And he's like nowhere close to being done.
Yeah, I think one of the most impressive things about it is as he gets older, like a new part of his game develops every year. So like his passing has been so good these last couple of years, and it hasn't really affected his points total per game.
I just think that if LeBron's on your team, the offense is running through LeBron. Just because you have a player who can literally do everything. Like you need a point guard, he can be your point guard. You need a center. He's strong enough to bang around with those centers. I just think LeBron is, the greatest all-around player we'll ever see, or I think I'll see at least. But I think that just shows how much effort and work LeBron has put in. He's never just content with being as the same player he was last season. He's always working. For example, when he was with the Heat, everyone said he wasn't clutch. What does he do? The next season, hits a game winner, leads the Heat to the championship. So
right.
I just think that LeBron's always evolving. He realizes that as he gets older, his body can't do the same things. So I think once he loses a little step, his shooting's gonna be godly, and his shooting is pretty godly.
His shooting's already pretty good. I mean that one thing that he really stepped up in recent years is his 3-point shooting. But
oh yeah.
I think my prediction for the part of his game that's going to improve this or next year is his free throw shooting, because I feel like that's been a little spotty this year, and you just know that with his work ethic that he's going to fix that, and next year he'll shoot 85%.
Also, I feel like his lower block game is going to be solid. I think maybe 2 years from now will be LeBron's actually one of the best post players in the league.
Yeah, as long as he can be a step ahead of his age.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty crazy to think that 4 of the 5 all-time scoring leaders in the NBA played for the Lakers. I mean, in order, you got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and now LeBron James. So Michael Jordan, MJ, is the only one who didn't, at least for a little while,
Yeah.
play with the Lakers.
I mean, for those who didn't know, Karl Malone actually spent his last few seasons with the Lakers. So
Exactly.
just
And
so
then
you know.
if you go below LeBron, then you got Wilt Chamberlain,
Laker.
and then you got Dirk Nowitzki, and then you got Shaquille O'Neal, who's another Laker.
Let me ask you this though: if Kobe didn't have all those injuries towards the end of his career, do you think Kobe would have made it to the top?
I'm gonna say it's tough because he is a little bit over 3,000 points off, so I feel like that's a considerable amount of games he'd have to play.
True, but think about it though, like Kobe literally missed like 2 full seasons towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. It'd probably be close, honestly.
I think he would have given it a good shot, and because those weren't great Lakers teams, so they've just been like, yeah, Kobe, just shoot, man.
Yeah, like he did the last game of his career against the Jazz.
He shot 60 shots, but scored 60 points. Like,
yeah, it's all right. That's
and they
what he
won,
does.
so like
That's what.
so that's what Kobe does. He matches his point total to his shot total.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to football. All right. So, a week ago on Monday Night Football, the Rams played the Chiefs. And I gotta say, Austin, that was probably the best football game I have ever seen in my entire life. I mean, that was crazy. The final score totaled to a combination of 105 total points. Both teams got up above 50. It was 54-51. Rams ended up taking the W, but it was crazy. Just both offenses were eaten. I mean, big 50-yard pass plays, and another aspect that's kind of adds to the craziness is, even though the defenses were giving up insane amount of yards and points,
I had a lot of
they were low-key eaten too. Like, they were creating turnovers. Both defenses scored a defensive touchdown. Just all around really fun game to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that when you just put 2 of the best teams in football, especially like 2 teams who have probably one of the best offenses in NFL history we'll ever see, and the fact that they're playing at the same time, and the fact that they both grace this field at the same time, that's what you want. You want to see you don't want to see like a low scoring defensive battle. You want to see like a high scoring just shootout.
Yeah, so that was actually the 3rd highest scoring game ever in the NFL. And there's actually a chance we get to see these 2 teams play again this season. It's unlikely, as the Rams have to go through the Saints and the Chiefs have to go through the Patriots, but there's that Super Bowl, and these are 2 contenders right here, so there's a chance.
Yeah, I will admit that I feel like Jared Goff has made tremendous strides, and I think honestly he might be the better quarterback between him and Carson Wentz.
Oh yeah, like year one, before the draft, I was saying Carson Wentz should be number 1, and I knew he wasn't gonna go number 1, but and I felt pretty right. Like, I felt good about saying that next year. This year, with Sean McVay in LA doing what he's doing, and I don't know, the fact that Carson Wentz got injured, it wasn't his fault, but he didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. It's shit. Maybe Jared Goff is potentially the better quarterback now.
But the thing is, though, they're both franchise quarterbacks. At the end of the day,
yeah.
The fact that you have a draft that produces 2 franchise quarterbacks, and I just think they're both good. Just Jared Goff has just impressed me more this far. I could be wrong next week. Probably not, but, next year's a different story. But right now, Jared Goff is killing it. I feel like he should definitely be in the MVP talk. Like, I feel like if he doesn't finish top 5, it's going to be kind of an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, I understand the Rams have Todd Gurley and they have a great offensive line. But the thing is, though, that scheme doesn't work without Jared Goff, because that scheme is all about deep threats and someone who can just throw a deep ball, but accurate with precision and always in the right spot. Jared Goff does that.
Right, like, you can draw all the scheme up in the world, but at the end of the day, it's Jared Goff who has to read the defense, make the pass. It's the ball's in his hands throughout the game, and at the end of the day, the Rams have only lost 1 game all year, and it was a close one to the Saints.
Yeah, who is also a really good team this year. So you're looking at the Rams, Saints, NFC title game. I don't really care who comes, just as long as one of those two teams, because they both deserve to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just hope it'll be like half as exciting as this game was with the Rams and the Chiefs.
Ooh, imagine like a Saints Chiefs Super Bowl.
Dude, honestly, if I had to pick right now, that's probably what I'm picking. You know, I think even though the Patriots won that game against the Chiefs earlier this year, I know it's not a good idea to bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs, but the way the Chiefs came back in the second half and only lost by 3 after being down, I'm not exactly sure how much it was, something like 20 points at halftime. That was really impressive.
Yeah, and Pat Mahomes threw like 2 interceptions that first half, and then played like a near perfect game in the second.
Yeah.
So just imagine, like, once he realized the mistakes he made that first game, he'll easily capitalize on.
Right. All right. Well, let's shift this to the extreme opposite end of the NFL. Hugh Jackson was just hired as the special assistant. What was it? Special assistant to the head coach. Yeah. In Cincinnati. His former team, the Browns, played Cincinnati this week. The Browns actually ended up taking the dub, which I'm not going to say it was surprising because neither team is really all that great right now, but it was just kind of ironic to see, you know, a team that went 3-36-1 with Hugh Jackson as a head coach come in and beat his new team just after a horrible few seasons. I don't know, that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, in the Bengals' defense, they didn't have AJ Green, and who is like honestly like the majority of their offense, just because there's not much to really go for the Bengals defense or offense, my bad. But I think the Browns really wanted to win it, just because if you read like going up to it, they saw like it was kind of a snake move to just go from the Browns to their division rival, especially their in-state rival, as I might add. The best part about that, though, was when Demarius Randall intercepted Andy Dalton's pass, and then he returned it, got knocked to the sideline, comes face-to-face with Hugh Jackson, and just gives him the football.
Yeah.
And then after the game, after Baker Mayfield just tore it up, he went to Hugh Jackson, shook his hand. Hugh Jackson went for a hug. Baker Mayfield was like, nah, fam, and just totally curved him, just took the handshake and left, and then continued to roast Hugh Jackson at his post-game conference, saying we didn't really like that. He went to its snake move. He's just a traitor. So, I mean, I feel like the Browns feel vindicated in a way by winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I support what Hugh Jackson did, but at the same time, like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I doubt he had very many options. And, that's kind of how it works. Like, most coaches, kind of bounce around in different levels at different positions on different teams, and that's just that's how the business works.
But the thing is, though, like, people don't realize that Hugh Jackson and Marvin Lewis, who is the Bengals head coach, are like best friends essentially. Like, they look out for each other. So I just think that at the end of the day, Hugh Jackson's like, yeah, I'll work for like my homie. Like, well, who wouldn't want to do that? Mm-hmm. So I think at the end of the day, it's a business. You just need a job, and you just keep going through the coaching range until you get your next opportunity. And I think at the end of the day, it's just Hugh Jackson did what's best for him. And I understand it made his former players mad. But the thing is, though, they aren't his players anymore.
Right.
Hugh Jackson can do whatever he wants.
He's a free man. All right. Former 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster got in some trouble this week in Tampa. If you hadn't heard, he's had some legality issues in the past. He had a minor weed possession in Alabama. He had a gun charge in California, but most notably, there was a domestic violence charge where he was thought to have hit his girlfriend last year, and there was a bunch of drama and went on for a few weeks. Eventually, the evidence kind of looked like he was innocent, and he was allowed back on the team and all that. This time it looks like he's pretty fucking guilty. I think I don't know what happened. I think I read he hit his girlfriend with an open hand to her face. The next day he was cut, and I don't know. It's a bummer all around. Like, you hate to see it, for the girl. Like, you never want to see domestic violence, but also just for Reuben Foster's career in the 49ers. I mean, he was objectively a good football player. he's had a rough life. He finally made it. If he had just been clean, been good and played well, he'd be making a lot of money in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's just a bummer to see him throw it all away.
The thing is, though, like, I just feel like I feel bad for the woman, obviously, just because domestic violence is something that should never happen. But the thing is, though, Reuben Foster knew he was on thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers gave him so many opportunities, and the fact that he just kind of threw it away like that, it's just, just a little disrespectful. Just because, like, you promised them that you would change, you would become a better person, you would stay out of trouble, and this just happens. And it's just like, I respect the 49ers and John Lynch for just having zero tolerance, just like they said earlier in the season that they have zero tolerance for domestic violence. And the minute this happened, they're just like, sorry, Reuben, you're gone, just because you're going against what the team believes in. And at the end of the day, it's like, you gotta be a good teammate too. But the thing is, though, like, Reuben, you just gotta figure it out, man.
Yeah, last year he had the benefit of the doubt, and the front office, John Lynch, was more of the mindset, okay, let's let this play out through the legal system and take our time with our decision. Let's not make any, rash decisions right now. And that ended up being the right decision because he was found innocent of that particular incident and let back on the team. But like you said, John Lynch told him, you got 2 strikes right now. You can't be messing around like this and doing things that are going to hurt the team. This time, the very next day, just cut. And it's unfortunate, but that's probably the right course of action here.
Yeah, I think it's the right move and the only move that should have been made. And I think that at the end of the day, like, Reuben Foster, you messed up. And I just think you have to own up to your mistakes.
Yeah. As a 49er fan, I almost wish there was some sort of, like, consolation prize that the Niners could get for making that right move. Like, it would have been pretty terrible to see him stay on the team after all that. So it's just kind of a bummer that there's, that pretty much no good comes out of this for anyone.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Tom Brady, the GOAT, just broke Peyton Manning's record of most passing yards of all time. He currently has 79,280. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think you'll only see it go up because he wants to play at least 2 more years. So I think he could get close to like 90,000, maybe close to 100,000, depending on how these next few seasons go. But that just speaks to Tom Brady's just excellence as a whole, his preparation to keep his body in shape throughout the season, especially as he gets older and he knows he wants to continue playing, but only continue playing at a high level, and he's done that. He's the first 40-year-old MVP in the NFL history, and the fact that he's 41 and still killing it just says a lot about his preparation. I respect Tom Brady as a football player, as a person. That's another debate, but I just think that Tom Brady is the consummate professional football player, and I think that's someone you want to win for.
Yeah, I was resisting calling Tom Brady the GOAT for a long time. I was a Joe Montana kind of guy. But after that comeback against Atlanta in the Super Bowl, to get, what was that, his 6th ring, I believe, you just can't deny it anymore.
Yeah, it's just obviously he's lost a lot of Super Bowls, but the fact that he's made more Super Bowls than a bunch of quarterbacks can say combined,
right?
It just says a lot. The fact that
Drew Brees has been to 1, Peyton Manning's been to 3 or 4.
Yeah, and Peyton Manning's only won 2 out of 4.
Right.
Tom Brady's been to 7 or 8. I don't even know. I can't even
track.
I've lost track. But the thing is, he has a winning record in the Super Bowl.
He was good before our time, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was good before I even started watching football. That's how good Tom Brady's been.
Yeah, it's funny because before the Tom Brady and Belichick era, historically the Patriots were not a good football team, and now in 2018, looking back at history, they're arguably the best football team.
They're like the San Francisco 49ers of the 80s and 90s, except now they're just the Patriots of the 2000s, 2010s.
Yeah. All right, we'll end with college football. This past weekend was rivalry week, so a lot of big games and such. Biggest of which was probably Ohio State and Michigan. But before we get into that, let's talk about the playoff picture a little bit. There are 3 undefeated teams left in Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. So there's really only one spot that's up for grabs.
I mean, obviously it can change after championship week, but
True.
I really don't see a scenario where these. I mean, Notre Dame doesn't even have a team because they're an independent, so I think they're pretty much locked.
And even if Alabama or Clemson were to lose a game, they would be no worse off than tied, with most of the contenders for that last spot. So yeah, Ohio State is one of probably three teams I could take the fourth spot. The other two are Oklahoma and UCF. The problem with UCF is their strength of schedule is pretty weak, and actually they're undefeated right now, but they just lost their starting quarterback,
Mackenzie Milton,
right?
Who I feel like should have been more in the Heisman talk, but it's obviously just a bummer just because he was a great player, leading his team to another consecutive great season. But you hate to see it, and obviously I just feel like you can't deny Oklahoma or Ohio State a spot in the college football playoff just because, like, look who they played and look who UCF has played.
Right.
And, like, I would say right now Ohio State has the edge just because of the way they beat down Michigan. But the thing is, though, Oklahoma has a very convincing case. Their one loss came in a very close game against Texas, and I think if they go out next week and beat Texas in the Big 12 championship football game, blow them out, I don't see a scenario where Oklahoma gets left out.
Really? All right. I mean, it's going to be close.
I mean, but think about it. Like, a team that loses 3 points to, like, a perennially ranked team compared to a team who got blown out by 20 to a team that wasn't even ranked, like...
Yeah. I mean, it was 1 week, but the race is so tight that that's what it comes down to sometimes. It's interesting. I mean, I think both of these teams kind of can play up and down to their teammates' strengths. I mean, like there was that Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State game earlier this year that Oklahoma was just barely able to edge out at the end.
That just shows the importance of Kyler Murray to the Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma's defense is trash, but Kyler Murray always somehow just finds a way to have his team win. So I just think that at the end of the day, like, Oklahoma is prepared to go in a shootout and they're ready. Sometimes Ohio State's not ready.
Yeah, I mean,
they look a little slow sometimes, but they were on it this week.
Yeah, I mean, they each got. Okay, yeah, I mean, Ohio State really did beat up on Michigan. I mean, this is one of the better Michigan teams we've seen in like the Jim Harbaugh era, and they lost by like 30 or something like that.
Yeah, I honestly thought they were gonna go to the college football playoff. But
yeah, I mean, going into that game, Ohio State was ranked 10 and Michigan was number 4. So I don't know. I think it really will depend what happens this week, and after that, it's just up to the committee, and nothing you can do but wait and see.
All right, but let me ask this though: for that 4th playoff spot, theoretically, say the teams like Clemson and Alabama are undefeated still, same with Notre Dame. Who would you like to see in that 4th playoff spot?
Oh man, that's tough because I feel like to see Kyler Murray in a playoff scenario would be like really fun to watch. I think Ohio State, like as a whole, defense, offense, special teams, might have the edge in that area. So it's really tough to say.
Yeah. I mean, going by preference, I would like to see Oklahoma in the college football playoff just because I enjoy watching Kyler Murray play college football, and it's like his only season of him being a starting quarterback before he takes his talents to my Oakland A's. But, I think that it's just going to be interesting to see how this final week turns out and how, like, the committee justifies their decision to put each team, especially that 4th spot, because it's always hotly debated.
Right. Maybe they'll surprise us all and throw UCF in there.
That's if UCF wins.
Yeah, well, they're undefeated, so it seems likely. All right, well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for tuning in to Crunch Time. I'm Noah Elkin.
I'm Austin Mann. See y'all later.